Imagine this trio of sisters from Monterrey, Mexico, and they've basically just stormed the rock music scene. Incredible talent, really fierce dedication. Their rise has been pretty meteoric. So today we're taking a deep dive into the world of The Warning.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about Daniela, Paulina or Pau, and Alejandra Villarreal. And their stories, I think, is especially interesting because it all started when they were really, really young, which, obviously shaped their childhoods in ways that are just completely different from most people's experience.
Right. And that's really the core of what we want to explore today, isn't it? Looking at those unique experiences. The sacrifices involved, sure, but also the rewards, A life dedicated to music from such an early point. And we'll also look ahead a bit at their potential future. It's this whole story of passion, commitment, and really, what does it mean to chase a dream when you're basically still a kid? So that unconventional childhood, let's jump into that. These sisters, the Villarreals, they didn't just pick up guitars last year. Our sources show they started training incredibly young. What are some of the details there that really jump out?
Well, what's truly fascinating is just how early it all kicked off. Danny, she's the eldest, was only 9. Just 9 years old when they first started putting song covers up on YouTube. And this wasn't just, a casual hobby. It pretty much immediately became this structured thing. Hours of practice, music lessons, and importantly, figuring out how to manage this growing online presence.
Wow, 9. So they weren't just learning instruments, they were learning the digital side too, right from the start.
Exactly. They had to get good at that whole digital landscape, right alongside mastering their instruments. Those early YouTube covers became, like a launch pad, really foundational for their career.
That level of commitment, at that age, it's just really striking. How did that immediate immersion, that kind of intense focus instead of a slow build, how did that shape things for them?
That kind of commitment, it always comes with trade-offs, right? Mm-hmm. The sisters themselves, they've mentioned it in interviews, their social life, recreational stuff, pretty limited compared to their peers. And it wasn't just missing out on parties, It probably created this incredibly tight, almost like insular bond between them.
Because their world was different.
Completely. While other kids might be doing school events, normal after-school things, the Warning schedule, it was travel, concerts, band commitments. That stuff basically replaced a lot of the typical childhood adolescent experiences, which definitely shaped how they worked together. That collaborative dynamic became exceptionally strong, you could argue.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it, what that must feel like compared to, the average kid's life. How did they handle all that intensity, especially being so young?
Right, and that leads us to something absolutely crucial for their success, the support from their parents. It sounds like their parents took on this huge, almost like unprecedented role, managing the logistics, the legal stuff, the emotional side of being
Or like managers, roadies, counselors, everything rolled into one.
Pretty much. This kind of unique parental scaffolding, let's call it, it let the sisters focus almost entirely on the music itself. It took away so much of the admin, the business stress that would normally fall on the artists. Mm-hmm. It's a really powerful example of how vital that strong family support can be, acting as both a shield and a launch pad.
That foundation sounds absolutely essential. Okay, so shifting to the sisters themselves. How do they talk about this unconventional upbringing? Is there any sense of regret in what we've seen, or is it more complex?
Well, you don't really see explicit "I regret this" statements in the interviews we looked at. Not really.
En donde yo no podía ser una niña. Yo estaba trabajando y eso era y punto. Que obviamente pues estoy trabajando en lo que me gusta y guara. Pero obviamente en esos momentos era, pues sí me daba como tristeza, me explico. Yo quería ir a las fiestas y quería conocer a la gente.
But they definitely acknowledged that, their childhood was different, very different. They seemed very aware that their path wasn't the standard one for kids their age.
Todas vivimos como tuvimos que vivir y pues, por ejemplo, ahorita yo digo de que, sí que loco es pensar que hubiera sido ir de que a la prepa y a la universidad, ¿sí? Pero no lo extraño porque no lo viví.
But it usually comes across with this deep sense of acceptance.
Okay, so acceptance. And being thrown into that professional world so early, it must have fast-tracked their maturity, their professionalism. But what does that actually mean day to day for them? Did that come with its own unique pressures, maybe developmental trade-offs we wouldn't even think about?
Absolutely. It meant they were dealing with things like complex contracts, media attention, the pressures of touring internationally, stuff usually handled by adults, right? And they were doing it long before their peers were even thinking about careers. So it gave them this perspective on commitment, responsibility, even the business side. That's way beyond their years.
Right. Their priorities must have shifted dramatically.
Completely. Forget typical teenage worries about, peer groups or high school dances. Their focus was on the demands of a global career. So this accelerated development gave them this kind of unusual insight into how the industry works, for sure. But it also meant they were figuring out who they were inside that really intense professional environment.
And despite all that pressure, that accelerated maturity we're talking about, it's really striking that the sources say they consistently express gratitude.
It really comes through. And it doesn't feel like just, being polite for an interview. It seems like a genuine, deep appreciation for the path they're on. They seem to recognize that these challenges, these experiences, they're part of what made them the artists they are now. They clearly value the unique things they've been through as a band, see it all as part of their identity, their success.
So let's look forward then. The Warning's future. They've done so much already and they're still so young. What are the key things for them to keep succeeding, to have that longevity?
Well, a really critical factor, looking ahead, is going to be balance. Balancing that super demanding music career with just their personal well-being. As they get older, setting healthy boundaries, prioritizing mental and emotional health, keeping that sisterly connection strong, that's going to be absolutely vital.
Because burnout is a real risk, especially starting so young and so intensely.
Exactly. That early intensity could become a real burden if it's not managed carefully. Avoiding burnout has to be paramount for them.
And musically, they've already shown such incredible growth. It feels like they're always evolving.
They really have. It's quite a notable evolution over the years. And to stay relevant, to keep that momentum going in such a fast-moving industry, they'll need to keep experimenting, keep innovating, keep challenging themselves creatively. Stagnation is death in the music world. And their track record so far suggests they really get it.
And thinking about the business side again, retaining creative control, that sounds incredibly important for them. It feels like a lesson so many young artists end up learning the hard way, unfortunately.
Absolutely fundamental. Keeping control over their music, their image.
Hey guys! We have some amazing news to share with you. We have finally found a partner who believes in our vision and in our music. We are extremely happy to announce that we have officially signed with Lava Records.
That's going to be crucial for staying authentic, for avoiding, potential industry exploitation. And because they started so young, it's maybe even more critical for them. Owning their sound, owning their story. That's key to really thriving on their own terms.
Right. And finally, it kind of brings us full circle, doesn't it? Back to that support system we talked about earlier.
Precisely. That continued solid support from their family, their friends, and their really dedicated fan base. That's all going to be essential for navigating whatever challenges come next. That foundation of support is just as important as their talent or their creative drive, I'd say.
It really is an amazing story, The Warning. It's such a powerful example of talent, but also that sheer dedication and the strength you get from family support. They've managed to adapt, to grow, to really thrive in what's known to be a super demanding industry, all despite, what we'd call a really unconventional start in life.
Their ability not just to cope, but to actually flourish in that kind of high-pressure environment. It says so much about their resilience, their passion, and that unique bond they clearly have forged through all those shared experiences.
So for you, our listener, maybe something to think about as we wrap up. Given everything we've discussed about their journey, what does the story of The Warning tell us about that deep, almost all-consuming commitment it takes to achieve something extraordinary when you're young? And maybe how might that kind of intense dedication apply, to pursuing passion in any field, not just music?